the Arabian Racehorse Podcast with Debbie Burt and Gary Capel.
Welcome to the second edition of the Arabian Racehorse Podcast, brought to you in association with Equine Medirecord. In our second edition, we'll be looking back at the Group 1 UAE President's Cup UK Arabian Derby, which was run at Doncaster, and also our first handicap of the season, the WathBastallions.com 0-75 handicap, which was run at Wolverhampton. And then at the end, we'll take a look at the race that my magazine, The Arabian Racehorse, will be sponsoring, which is also going to be run at Wolverhampton. So Gary joins us on his lunch break. He's working for SIS today. Thank you, Gary.
Pleasure.
Last time we spoke to you, you were about to enjoy a mammoth session talking about races from Chile. What have you got on your agenda today?
We've had a bit of a virtual fest this morning. There's been the odd race thrown in from Mauritius and also from Madrid as well. We have broadcast the odd Arabian race actually from Madrid throughout the summer, but not one there today. And then it's obviously quite busy this afternoon with the Curragh, Musselburgh, Chester, and the reappearance of Nottingham as well, which I'm looking forward to, which starts fairly shortly.
Okay, right. If we just start with the Derby at Doncaster, that was won by Hattal. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it was no great surprise to see him win. I think he went off at 2-1 odds-on favourite for the race, which justifiably so, given the manner in which he'd won the French Derby. He's obviously a colt with great potential. Unfortunately, we didn't get the pace that we had at Chantilly, so there was no great record-breaking time. How do you feel? What are your thoughts on the race?
Yeah, they went slow, didn't they? Which was, I suppose, always likely, perhaps with a small field. And he was a little bit keen again, Hattal. He had been keen during the first sort of 2 furlongs of the French equivalent, hadn't he? But Tiger O'Shea soon got him settled, which was the key thing, because I think this horse is going to be obviously seen to a better effect when they go a stronger gallop. But he got him settled eventually. It just took him a while to get past the other French horse, Jaguar de Monlau, as they came down the straight. I thought the second horse showed a nice enough attitude, actually. Having been headed, he kept on willingly on that far rail for Sylvester de Sousa. But you always thought that Hattal was comfortably going to do enough. In terms of the future for this horse, I don't think he has an entry for the Arc, and it's not really a race that sort of 4-year-olds target very often anyway, is it? So I think the Jewel Crown was a potential target for this horse. I noticed the distance for that race has gone up this year at Abu Dhabi, which will probably actually suit this horse. And also that track will probably suit him, or the way that the races are usually run at that track will probably suit him, because they are likely to go a decent gallop in that race, which will hopefully help him settled. Obviously, that will be coming up probably against a better class of horse, I would imagine, in that race. But if Connections decide to go down that route with him, and it kind of looks the next sort of obvious target for him, really, doesn't it? Because they'll have a bit of race fitness on his side. That kind of track, I think, will definitely suit him, and we'll learn hopefully a little bit more about where we might see him next season in that race.
Absolutely. Obviously, the owner breeder Sheikh Mansour, through his umbrella operation of Yaz Horse Management, he's no stranger to having winners in this country, or indeed obviously in the UAE, which is where he's based. That was a first winner for the trainer, Javier Thomas de Molt. His biggest previously was also a UAE Cup win. That one was the UAE Cup that they sponsor at Paris-Longchamp, which is a European Cup, which is also Group 1. He won that in 2018 with Charm. I spoke to him after the race, and he was very grateful to all of the Arrow team for organising, looking after the horse. Because obviously with the restrictions with COVID that we've had, the horse actually had to travel up from their base in Mont-de-Marsan and be looked after on arrival in England. So he was obviously very pleased with the horse's run. He felt that obviously, as you'd expect, the horse didn't have a hard race, and he's come out of it very well. As you say, he's not in the entries for the World Cup, and although we've got a supplementary stage to come, probably pretty unlikely that we'll see him run there. And as you say, although it's not been mentioned, chances are if we see him anywhere, it will be the Jewel Crown. I was talking to Tiger O'Shea, who rode him and has also rode the Dam Misna to win the Kahela Classic. And he was saying how much she enjoyed that track at Abu Dhabi and had won there 3 times. So as you say, you would think that would be where he would be heading next. As to the UK runners, obviously we haven't had a long enough season in comparison to France in order to get our horses going. But I thought that for a debutant, Lua for Phil Collington ran a really nice race, very pleasing race to finish third. And obviously Satam was doing a quick turnaround, having run at Wolverhampton the previous Saturday. But I thought they were, they looked nice prospects for the UK, certainly moving forward.
Yeah, very much so with Lua. You don't get too many horses make their debuts really in this type of race, do you? But this horse did. Obviously, had been showing quite a lot at home. Was fairly prominent actually. Defied the sort of inexperience during the early stages. Was always sort of well to the fore. Wasn't too far away from the leaders in the early stages. And even when she was headed, I mean, she wasn't knocked about by Dane O'Neill, but I like the way that she rallied and seemed to keep trying all the way to the line. I mean, the others have obviously, or the front pair, I should say, obviously had the benefit of experience. She didn't, but I think there was a lot to like about that performance from a debutante. And as I say, she showed a likeable attitude as well. I don't think she'll have too many problems picking up a maiden if they decide to go down that route with her, whether they might try and campaign her abroad. I'm not just sure what the plan is for her, but I thought she shaped quite well. Satam, ideally, I think would have obviously preferred a little bit further in between race. It was obviously a quick turnaround from the debut effort, wasn't it, at Wolverhampton, not that many days prior to running in the Derby. And Al-Amin he lost many lengths at the start, didn't he, which obviously didn't help his cause. He made a little bit of headway and looked to be going okay, but didn't quicken as well as some of the others as well. So perhaps those early exertions, obviously, I know he didn't per se lose, he lost ground, and it was just how the race panned out. They didn't go quickly. He was able to make up that ground quite quickly, but in the end, his effort rather petered out, didn't it? So I think there's better to come from him.
Now we move on to the WaffBastallions.com handicap, which is just short of 1 mile 2 furlongs at Wolverhampton, which was run last Monday. Though our season has been compressed, it's great to see those full fields. And obviously, whilst it was a bit of a surprise to see a filly with so much speed as Mizuna win, it was a very strong race for the grade. And to be fair, the race did pan out quite nicely for her. She got that break at the end when she needed it. And I thought she won well. What did you think?
Yeah, she did win well, considering she perhaps didn't get the clearest of passages through, maybe at a vital stage. I mean, get the impression this is a horse that they've been quite frustrated with. She's still fairly lightly raced, obviously, but I get the impression she shows maybe a little bit more at home than sometimes what we've seen on the track thus far, because she has been slightly hit and miss. Okay, she's actually ran in some decent races, to be fair, and I suppose this was the lowest grade of handicap that she had ran in here in the UK, at least anyway. But she battled on gamely when she had to. She clearly likes the all-weather as well. I think that's a key point with this particular horse. Obviously, her only victory prior to this had come at Chelmsford, and she'd been third here at Wolverhampton last season in a 0-80 contest over the same course and distance. So coming back down in grade was obviously a help. Beating stable companion Algarve, who took a big step forward on his handicap debut from the run that we saw from this horse in the maiden at the same track over a slightly shorter distance earlier on in the season. And they were half a length clear of Almontha, who, again, I think that was certainly better from him. Whether he might appreciate a slight step back down in trip, I'm not just sure. He couldn't quite match the speed of the front two in the closing stages. And they pulled nicely clear of the fourth horse, Altabari, who I think is a horse who will appreciate going up in trip, and was another horse who didn't perhaps get the clearest of luck in running once the race began to develop and the tempo began to lift. But for a horse who's only rated 50 in the shape of Altabari, I thought that was a decent effort on this horse's second start in handicap company. And again, I think a further step up in trip. I mean, the Dame Altes cost that, I think, won over a mile and a half. Might have even been further than that in her career. So a step up in trip will definitely suit Altabari moving forward.
Absolutely. And Mizuna now runs over 1,500 metres in the WaffBastallions Cup at Mons Glyn tomorrow in Belgium. She's got 60 kilograms there, which is 9 stone 6. So winning off of 10 stone 7 at Wolverhampton, she's going to feel like she's running free to a certain extent. But having said that, she's one of the higher weighted horses in the race. I would think she'd go well. James has also got Farah and Jadail in the race. And they've also got Stormtrooper, who's obviously now with Akbar Ashur, who's another UK interest for running in Belgium.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting little race, that, won't it? Obviously, James has already plundered a couple of prizes already, or at least one anyway, in Belgium already this year. So clearly looking for suitable opportunity for some of his horses. Farha is obviously a horse I've got a little bit of a soft spot for. Whether the distance might be ideal for her, I'm not just sure. But it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top in that race.
Absolutely. And we'll move on now back to Wolverhampton to a race that we've got coming up on Tuesday. Many of you will know that I've been sponsoring with Arrow under a variety of names for nearly 10 years, which is quite hard to believe now when I actually work back through it. It seems a long time since that first race I sponsored at Salisbury, which was actually one of the Arrow Thoroughbred races. That was won by a horse called For Pleasure, which was an ex-Henry Cecil horse, which Stuart Sheffrus owned and trained. And that was actually ridden by Rachel King, who obviously we now know has turned into quite a useful professional jockey in Australia. And that's a nice thing for me to look back on. The first race I sponsored at Wolverhampton under the name of the Arabian Racehorse magazine was actually another maiden race, and that was won by Mithaf Athbar. He's since went on to win a Group 1 race. So whether we'll see a horse of that quality on Tuesday, I don't know. But it's good to see a full field, although I see this morning that we've lost one. So we're down to 12 runners. But even so, it's still good to see so many horses running. What do you think, Gary?
Yeah, five of them making their debuts now that Big Aura, I believe, has come out. Quite a few of these met earlier on in the season, the first maiden that we had here, where when Arthur fared best of those on that occasion when she finished third, G1, Tufan the Croat, and a couple of the others were further in behind. I should imagine they'll try and hold on to her a little bit longer this time when Arthur is. She got to the front a little bit too soon, almost, if you like, in that race here last time out, and she sort of wandered around a little bit. The tail did go around. We can put that down to an experience, I think, and she should have got run out of it close home. For me, she's the most likely winner, certainly of those that have ran anyway, albeit it wouldn't be a big surprise to see G1 take a bit of a step forward from that horse's respective racecourse debut. And of course, we've got some nice newcomers in there as well. Nasaim and Jamarat, who both wear headgear, both wear cheap pieces for their respective racecourse debuts. And Durga Mathbar as well, down at the bottom, all those horses, 3-year-olds getting plenty of weight. I mean, I've not seen these horses in the flesh. You've been lucky enough to go to James and Phil's yards to have a look at these horses, so you can probably tell me a bit more about them.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. And you know, that's one of the nice things about my job is being able to have the time to go and visit the trainers, and I'm grateful to them to allow me access to go and have a look. If we just start actually with Tufan, who's an unraced 4-year-old, he's a lovely looking horse. Whatever he does, he's going to improve on. Whether, because obviously as a 4-year-old, he'll be giving a bit of weight to the 3-year-olds, whether that'll be too much on his first outing, I don't know. But certainly he's one I'm going to be looking closely at in the race with a view to the future. Moving down to the 3-year-olds, Durgam Athbar I actually saw when he was a yearling at Athbar Stud before they moved their operation to France. He's a first foal, so he's a little bit on the small side, but he's very compact and a strong individual, and I wouldn't let his size put me off in any way. He's been training well at home. I've seen him out on the Heath in Newmarket. His dam was second in the stayers race at DR. So obviously, although she's won over the trip, you know, he could quite easily be one that's going to want further in time. And certainly as he grows, that could well be the case. We have Jamarat. Now she's quite nicely related. She's a half sister to Rasasi, who's by Munjiz, and Salama, who was by Malhab, who both won the 7 furlong juvenile race at DR. Jamarat's by De Hess, so you know that's a horse who won the Jebel Ali Sprint 3 times, wasn't it, at the same meeting? So you know she's certainly got plenty of speed and a good pedigree, and she does look a typical De Hess. She's quite compact and looks a strong filly. So certainly I'd be interested to see her run. Naseem, actually, she's a half sister to Mizuna, who we've just been talking about. She's also a nice filly, looks very much a sort of 3-year-old type, and I know James likes her a lot. So yeah, it'd be really exciting to see all these new horses come out and have their first run, and it's a race I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it, with those newcomers? We know that, as you mentioned, quite a few of them are going to be okay on the surface, or certainly some of their siblings, if you like, have been okay on the surface. I suppose from the newcomers' point of view, Durgan Mathbar was probably the one who interested me most. I saw one of the pictures that you put on of this horse working in the morning. I think he works in a hood, doesn't he? Or certainly from one of the pictures that you saw, I saw that you'd taken, he was in a hood, and obviously that's not on for his racecourse debut. But yeah, he was the one who interested me most from the newcomers, I think it's fair to say. But if they can just hold on to an arse for a little bit longer, I think she's very much the one to beat.
Absolutely, Gary. Well, thank you very much for your time. We'll be back later on next week with a review of this race, and then we'll be looking forward to the top class racing that we've got coming up in France. So thank you very much, and we'll speak again soon.